I'll kind of start by introducing myself. We do have two students who are also going to be joining us as panelists today, sharing some really great information. But I want to start by thanking everyone for joining us for our session. We look forward to chatting with you, maybe answering some questions that you have, as well as sharing some really great information with you all in terms of both transfer experience, as well as transferring maybe as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, resources, opportunities, that sort of stuff. And so with that, my name is Colin Helms, and I'm an assistant director in the Office of Financial Aid here at Appalachian. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm just really excited to be here, have a chance to facilitate this session and interact with you transfer folks. And so our two panelists today are Kat Ward and Augustino Persico, and I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Sure, I can go first. So I'm Kat Ward. I use she, her pronouns. I transferred to ASU in the fall of 2018, and I am a senior middle grades education major. And transferring to ASU has been one of the most rewarding things I've done in my college career. So I'm very excited to share some insight about it.
Hi, my name is Augustino. I transferred from Lees McRae. Oh my gosh, you know what, the pandemic's got me forgetting like what year it is and stuff, but I guess like last fall semester. And you know, I'm an anthropology major. I'm really enjoying app, and it totally, like, I started with a really bad college experience, but like app like totally turned my experience around. So I'm really thankful for the people here.
Awesome. And so what we're going to do, you know, I've got kind of some prompts, things that we've discussed, you know, information we'd really want to make sure it gets shared with everyone today. But if at any point, you know, while we're sharing experiences or resources, if you have a question that comes up, I want you to feel really comfortable asking in this space. The more that we can do in terms of just like generating dialogue, you know, the better. We want to make sure that your questions are certainly answered throughout. So please don't hesitate. Just, you know, take yourself out mute and give me a shout and we'll make it happen. So we'll kind of just lead in. Kat and Augustino just shared a little bit in terms of being transfer students at App, but I would like to give both of you the opportunity to maybe expand a little bit on your transfer experience, what it was like just in terms of navigating the transfer student process, you know, what that was like for you, what resources you utilized in the process of being a transfer student. If y'all wouldn't mind sharing that out, we'll start there.
Sure. So like I said, I transferred in the fall of 2018. I started out at UNC Chapel Hill. And I, realized that's not exactly where I wanted to be. I realized that a good program for my major was here at ASU. And so I decided to make that transfer. The Office of Transfer Services was very helpful for me in that time. They're very accessible. I had a lot of questions about, how do I send my transcript? How do I send my SAT scores? All that kind of stuff. And they were very helpful with navigating that process. I also applied to live on campus when I was transferring in Transfer Educators RLC. So it was a residence hall specifically for transfer students who were education majors. And I'm sure I'll talk about that more later, but that experience was really rewarding for me and made that transfer process a lot easier because I knew I would have somewhere to live with other transfer students, and it made that transition a lot easier for me.
I definitely second Kat on the Office of Transfer Services, like being like amazing people, really great. First people I went to, and they set me straight. They gave me all the information I needed. App was like my backup school, like when I was originally applying to colleges. So like I had some some background information from like having visited the campus in the past. I definitely recommend like visiting the campuses you're interested in, and like especially like talking to those transfer service people. And I also live in the transfer RLC, so I applied for that and got in, and unfortunately it did look a little bit different this year because of extenuating circumstances, but Kim Morton and co have, all been very excellent and, really great support system. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. And so I think Kat and Augustino both brought up some really good points in terms of, with whichever institution it might be that you're pursuing, right? Being really closely in communication with either their transfer admissions counselor or their Office of Transfer Services They are really going to be your key guide throughout that process. I think I can speak for myself as well as Jane and Matt in here as well. Please ask questions. Don't hesitate. It's never a bother. We love to hear from students and answer your questions and make sure you fully understand, where it is you might be attending. It's a big decision in general to go to college and then also to transfer and maybe start something new at a different institution. And so we're happy to help. The Office of Financial Aid, where I'm at, obviously, we're also here to help you and support you throughout that journey. We know finances are a big part of the process. So always feel free to reach out to us too. But, Kat and Augustino mentioned working closely with those offices and then kind of dabbled a little bit in terms of like resources. And so, Kat, Augustino, whoever wants to kind of jump in here first, in terms of specific resources or opportunities that you were looking for with app or in general during your college search that you felt like were really going to align with some of your personal identities and maybe with some of the things you really wanted to get involved with outside of academics when going to school?
Yeah, so for me, when I realized one of the things that I was not happy with at my previous institution was class size. And so being able to it being very clear on app's website that like small classes are emphasized, being able to have those like one-on-one relationships with your faculty, especially like advisors or professors in your major, that was very emphasized through app. And so that was a big piece for me. Like I really wanted to come somewhere where I felt that my presence in the classroom was like valued and I was getting that like specialized attention that I needed to be successful. So regardless of, wherever you're going, just like having an idea of what the class size looks like and what the kind of protocol or culture around relationships with professors and faculty is ahead of time. That was something that was really important and helpful for me. And well, once I got here and started classes, I realized how much having those smaller class sizes and faculty who were able to build relationships with students meant a lot to me and helped me a lot to be successful in my courses.
So for me, when I transferred, like the biggest like things I was looking for was housing, community, and like this is a different can of worms, but like disability services on campus because I'm a disabled student. And so as far as like housing goes, like I looked through like the university's website and, I was very happy to see that a lot of information about housing, about the transfer communities, about like gender accommodations for, students who are transgender. At the time I hadn't started transitioning yet, but so like that wasn't a total concern for me yet, but like knowing that that was there and something that they were willing to put on the website and make like open available information was like really excellent. In terms of community, the Henderson Springs LGBT Center, amazing place. I really like that on the app website, there was extensive information, and the fact that the LGBT Center is very like holistic with the rest of the school. They are in, cahoots with all sorts of other organizations on campus and offices on campus, including housing and, as you can see, including, the Office of Transfer Services. So that was, like an excellent, I guess, like tip off for me. And lastly, I guess it might not be pertinent to everybody, but if it is for you, like the Office of Disability Resources being like very, very, obviously accessible, very kind, willing to answer any questions, all questions, anytime at all. And I guess like that, like willingness to work with students in regards to all organizations on campus was really like something important for me. And I was glad to be able to find that.
I think also Augustina made some really good points about how the LGBT services on campus are advertised. So looking for a university where you don't have to find those resources, they're available to you. So it's not like if you have a question about gender accommodations for housing or LGBT groups on campus, like you don't want to feel like you have to ask 15 people and go through an email tree to figure out that information. Like looking for somewhere where those services and groups and social groups are made aware and accessible to everyone is like really important. And again, their collaboration with other campus involvement groups. So not feeling like as a member of the LGBT community, you're stuck in your LGBT center group, like the way that they're integrated into other groups. And I can speak to that as well. I volunteer in the Women's Center and have for 4 years. And the Tri-Center initiative is something that Intercultural Student Affairs is doing. This has started in the past couple of years of making the LGBT Center, the Women's Center, and the Multicultural Student Center kind of like a combined unit for diversity and equity on campus. So I can say for App, the way that the LGBT Center is integrated into like different departments and majors and other groups and organizations has been very holistic, like Augustina said.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. I think kind of really a nice running theme through, kind of the back and forth conversation there was community, right? I think anytime you're talking with a college, perhaps we really love to use the word community. Like it's a really nice buzzword for folks in terms of, trying to find belonging in a space where you really feel like you fit in and are comfortable on the campus or at the institution you're attending, right? And so I think Kat brought up some really good points in terms of not feeling like your community is limited to one place, right? Like it's part of the beauty of college is being able to have community in multiple spaces, which is, a really exciting opportunity for folks, and to be able to explore community within your specific housing location, whether you're in maybe our transfer RLC, living with transfer students here at Appalachian, or, if you're at a different institution that has like a living learning community that you're interested in, knowing that there are really great opportunities to build relationships during your time in school. But community, in my mind, and I think you all will agree, is kind of like a twofold piece, right? So there's the community that you can build within the institution and with, other students, faculty, and staff members, that community, but then also thinking about the surrounding community. So like the town where you will be, right? Like where your school is housed, are still a really big part of your college experience. For me as an undergraduate, as well as a graduate student, the towns where my schools were at played a big role in what it was like to be living in that area, especially if you end up living off campus, right? So maybe you're on campus for a year and then you decide to live in an apartment off campus and you become kind of like a resident of the town. And so what is that like? What is it like to, be a member of the community at large? And, what resources are available? What opportunities are there to get involved? Things like that I think it's always good to be mindful of when you're looking at an institution. What can you do outside of just clubs and organizations? And so Kat, Augustino, and I have previously discussed this a little bit. Kat, I know you had some really good experiences with off-campus sort of like community service related organizations. If you maybe would want to share and touch a little bit about, finding those resources, what it's like to be involved in off-campus opportunities, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing about Boone in specific is there are a lot of opportunities to be involved in service organizations, volunteer type things. So for me, like I said, I work with the ASU Women's Center, and I got very involved with Oasis, which is our local domestic and interpersonal violence shelter in the town. And so speaking for Oasis specifically, there's a huge drive and like effort to connect students with those off-campus opportunities. So Oasis is constantly getting involved with like different student organizations. Like I know they're doing a fundraiser with like Student Nursing Club right now. They partner really closely with the Women's Center. So those kind of service organizations to give back to the community make a really strong effort to partner with the campus, because they know that there are lots of students who want to volunteer, who have resources, who have, skills and experiences that can be beneficial. And so getting involved in giving back to the community that you were part of was for me a really helpful way to feel like I actually am a part of the community. So like, I don't feel like I'm just a student. I feel like, especially now that I've lived off campus for 2 years now. So I feel like I'm a resident of Boone, and I feel like I have, connections with people outside of the university, which just kind of made my transition to ASU a lot smoother and made me feel a lot more like this is a place that I actively live and like am taking an active role in being a part of your community was just made me feel a lot more like validated and secure in where I am.
As a pandemic student, unfortunately, I haven't had much opportunity to interact with the Boone community at large. But, like I guess like, so like next semester I'm moving off campus, and, I was very like happy to learn that there's like services on campus for it's like off campus like student affairs, and like they will help you like transitioning out of the dorm and into the Boone community. And I definitely think like looking at institutions, if you can find something like that willingness to help students even as they start to branch out off campus is like absolutely excellent to have. And things like wellness and prevention services on campus here too, have also been really helpful in that journey of, kind of like getting kicked out of the dorm nest, so to speak. So definitely look for and take advantage of those sorts of resources.
Yeah, definitely. And also noting that a lot of institutions, I know App does and many, like several others do, have kind of like student legal services that will help you navigate a lease and understand a rental agreement and, all of your rights as a renter as well. So those are also great resources for students to utilize that are going to be included as part of those tuition and fees. So, if nothing else, please make sure that you utilize all those resources that are available to you during your time in school. And so now I think if we want to pivot a little bit, I think just maybe having a chance to talk about perhaps, and this, if students have questions about this, I know that I can kind of speak to this a little bit, and Kat and Augustino as well. Experiences as a member of the community and like interactions with faculty and staff members, and finding like real comfort perhaps and security in the affirming nature of faculty and staff in terms of like, app in general, I think does an excellent job of using language throughout our entire website that helps students feel included and accepted at Appalachian. But I think, Kat or Augustino, if y'all want to jump in and share, any of your personal experiences related to this, and then I'll be happy to kind of share some of mine as well.
So like coming in like my first semester, I came in with like a different name. And so, like I was really worried about like, oh man, is changing this, is this going to be difficult? Are my professors going to be difficult about this? Is like housing going to be difficult about this? Absolutely not. It was like so easy. On our little, I guess like self-service, like, like paying your fees and stuff like that. It's called AppleNet. Like there is a place where you can like change your preferred name, even if that does not match your legal name. And they also give you like outline very clear steps on it when you get your name, if you get your legal name changed, like how to get that, like done or like updated through the school. And like that process was so easy. All of my professors have been like, like really kind and understanding. And like it's really nice because like, like a lot of people on campus, like faculty, like, will put their little like their pronouns like in like their email signature and on their Zoom titles. And that is nice. It definitely makes you, I guess, like as a transgender student, it makes me feel less like I kind of stand out from the crowd, so to speak. What else? I guess like again with like housing, like my RA and everything was like, again, very understanding and kind. As soon as she saw that I changed my name in Slack, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, do you want me to change your name on your door? Is there anything I can do to support you and make this easier for you? And I was like, oh, Hannah, you're the best. Thanks. Yeah, there's like, I guess like if you're like from other parts of like North Carolina, you might hear like Boone's reputation is like, ooh, a hippie liberal town. Like Asheville gets that reputation too. But honestly, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a very well deserved. Like Boone and the app community has just been like overwhelmingly accepting and chill, and it's just been a really comfortable experience. And like my long-term partner, she's a transgender woman, and she has had like a very similar like just it's easy. It's easy to live here when in other places it might not be that easy if you're trans. So just very greatly appreciated. Sorry, I didn't mean to ramble on so long.
Yeah, I will say also in terms of like curriculum at App. So I'm like I said, I'm a middle grades education major. So like through the Department of or the College of Education, we have like required diversity classes. So like one of the first classes you take when you're admitted to the College of Ed is like teaching diverse perspectives, and it's like a class on teaching LGBT identities and identities of all like races and and genders and all kinds of things. And so I think that kind of transcends other departments as well. I think within a lot of majors and classes, especially those focused on working with people like social work, education. I can't think of any others right now, but a lot of those departments make an effort to give a holistic, affirming, and justice centered curriculum at some point. I can't say that it's necessarily like the focus of it, but I feel like I have recognized that there is an effort to have diverse perspectives and a focus on identity in my classes for a lot of them.
Hi, good morning. My name is Matt Huntenar. I'm with Online and Transfer Services, and I just wanted to share, number one, it's so great to see all of you and definitely hear from Agustino and Kat. But I remember coming to App and I would see these stickers on people's office doors, and it was the rainbow flag and it said App Allies. And I was like, that's awesome. How do I get one of those stickers? And they said, well, you got to do the training. So we have a training program for faculty and staff, and there's a student version too called App Allies, where it's like a 2-hour session where you learn, how to support the community, our community, and then you get the sticker. And the session was huge. I think there was maybe 40 of us in the session, faculty and staff, and they ran out of stickers, and I was so disappointed. And I said, okay, I earned my sticker. I want that at some point. So I just think that's I just like that we show it. I like that we're visible, so students can see those kind of signage on campus, and I just think that's great. And when I was in college, it wasn't like that. I mean, the LGBTQ plus center was hidden away on the bottom level of the student union, and it was it was more like an invisible community, and I don't certainly feel that way at Appalachian. So.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you bringing up App Allies. And then I think just something that I think is very important that's connected to that in some of what Kat was sharing about curriculum is this acknowledgement of kind of the continued work, if you will, as a campus community, in terms of knowing that there's still much that can be done as an institution, and that having really excellent training opportunities for faculty and staff to perhaps become more knowledgeable in terms of everything from appropriate language to use for LGBTQ plus folks, as well as learning the history of the LGBTQ plus community. Incredibly important. And so while we offer these trainings, I think our institution, as well as several others, do a really good job of noting that one training is not enough, right? Like, it is important and it is good, but there's still so much more that can be done outside of that. And I think Kat was kind of touching on that in terms of like integration into curriculum. And while certain majors do have like required coursework that really is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think it's becoming more popular at a lot of institutions, and I think we're starting to see it here at App as well, in terms of just in general integrating LGBTQ experiences throughout history into curriculum, and like really rewriting what that looks like, right? We're not teaching the same course over and over every year. We're going to actually step back and say there are additional voices, there are different voices and lived experiences and contributions that can be included into the curriculum, and it matters that they're there. And so I think that is one thing for me, particularly in my graduate studies, that I was really excited about. I got my master's in higher education at Appalachian, and then I've also completed the first year of doctoral studies. And during that year, I had a course that was all about, basically the course broke down into teaching history, but through like the LGBTQ plus lens from like the beginning of time through now. And it was the most extensive seminar I think I've ever been in my entire life. And we went through various coursework within general education curriculum and kind of analyzed where the legitimate lived experiences of these individuals should be and could be incorporated throughout a general education curriculum for an institution. And so just knowing that that's something that I think is up and coming and is a really exciting part of the college experience, because at least for me, I felt like I was in no way ever represented in my K-12 education. I felt like, no one like me was really talked about during that time. And so to know that that's slowly starting to happen in higher education for me is really, really exciting. So kind of with that, I think we've done a lot in terms of talking about campus resources, but one additional one that I think is important for us to discuss, and Kat Augustino, we talked about this a little bit in terms of resources in times that are tough for folks, I think is really important to talk about, like the good and the highlights and the really exciting, and then also acknowledging that there are folks on campus who are here for you when things are a little bit more difficult. And so Kat, would you mind maybe sharing a little bit about some of the specific resources in terms of like group opportunities offered through the counseling center, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So the LGBT Center and the Women's Center and the Multicultural Center have worked closely with wellness and prevention services to create an opportunity for counseling services for LGBT individuals specifically. So I know there's at least two. I believe there is just kind of like a general LGBT one, and I believe there's one for specifically people on the asexual spectrum as well. For resources for a community and meeting with someone from the counseling center about those specific identities. So, you have an opportunity to meet with other people who share those identities and have a counselor who can talk about the specific challenges and effects on mental health that come along with being a part of these communities. So that's like a really great opportunity. Again, it builds back into that community piece, but also builds back into a support and a support service as well. So the counseling center has worked very closely to have, I know they have like a lot of almost all of their, if not their faculty go through the App Allies training and things like that, and make an effort to be very affirming. And they also create specific support groups for members of the LGBT community as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Kat. And so kind of in terms of like big picture stuff we wanted to cover, I think we've hit a lot of it. Kat Augustino, are there any additional things you might want to add or share about your experiences or resources before we really open it up for questions from folks?
I guess I just want to I guess I'm an LGBT center volunteer, and I just want I want to plug it a little more. Henderson Springs is great, is awesome. We work with the oh my gosh, the actual name of the organization is slipping my brain right now, but the outdoors people, we work with the CRC, which is the Collegiate Recovery Community. We work with just all sorts of people on campus, and we have tons of fun events, and the effort, the love and the effort that goes into this little community, all the volunteers all on a first name basis, and and it's just and even if you've gone to just one little event, someone Eliza or someone will say hi, I saw you at the last event, and talk to you and chat you up, and it's just a really awesome sense of community that I have not really experienced anywhere else. And, I just I hope that, wherever institution you end up at, whether it's App or somewhere else, that you get that same level of just love and what's the word? I guess community is the best word I can say.
Thanks, Augustino. I do appreciate it. Love community and support for sure. So I guess at this time, we'd love to hear from you all if you have any specific questions for me, Matt, or Jane, or for Augustino and Kat, about their transfer experiences or about resources and support, not just here at Appalachian, but, questions you might have as part of your just general search as a transfer student. We'd love to open up the floor for that. Also, no pressure if you don't have any. No need to feel obligated either. Well, all right. If there aren't any questions, or if you don't have any questions right now, we might go ahead and wrap. But also, if you leave today, you finish up with this event, these sessions, and you do think of a question that comes up, I don't want you to hesitate to reach out. feel free to contact Jane or Matt or myself. Happy to help. I think if you wanted to hear from a student voice too, I'm sure we could get you connected with Kat or Augustino so you could hear from them directly, about what it's like being a transfer student. And so we thank you for your time and for joining us during our session today. And I hope that you continue to enjoy the rest of the transfer services event that's happening throughout the day. And if you're coming to App, we look forward to seeing you here in the fall.